My story is about a man called Dave. See, when Dave was young, he didn't have a care in the world. The most he had to worry about was homework and if his crush liked him back. Well, one day, Dave graduated and he had to get a job. Now, Dave found a job that he liked alright. His boss was okay, most of his coworkers weren't too bad, could have been worse. But then one day, let's call it payday, Dave got his first check. And on his pay stub, he saw how much he paid in taxes. He got confused. How? How can the government take this much, he wondered. But once he got his wits about him, he decided that he would just work more. That way he'll have more money. But then he discovered working more means more taxes. That's okay, he thought. I'll just work hard, then I can retire. But that's when he discovered that his retirement age kept going up and up the more he worked. This story happened over 50 years ago. But legend has it that if you stop by McDonald's on Main Street, you can still see Dave working today! Alright, yes, we are officially into October now, which means it's the greatest time of the year. Halloween is just weeks away and I'm getting excited. Are you guys getting excited? Well, I'm excited. Before we go on, I don't want to forget to mention that you should subscribe, hit the bell icon, like this video, all that jazz. Alright, well, let's get into the mayhem that is Madman. Madman came out for a very limited release on October 30th, 1981, but it didn't get a wide release until February 18th, 1983. It runs for 1 hour and 28 minutes. It was written and directed by Joe Giannone, and this is the only movie he's ever directed. Now, IMDb lists the plot as, quote, a legendary psychopathic murderer stalks a summer camp, end quote. Well, I'll be the judge of that. We start off with some music that almost seems like it's from Escape from New York. I dig it. And some text explaining how it all started. Another take on what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did, but it's really hard to top that one. Then we cut to a campfire where we meet TP, played by Tony Fish. This is his only acting credit. TP is singing a
beautiful song about death.
In the air, the scent of death crawling.
And as he's singing, when he gets close to certain people, we see a flash forward of what's going to be happening to them later in the movie. I will say that I think that's a pretty cool way of doing it. They don't give away exactly what happens to them, but just enough. After he's done, we meet Max, played by Frederick Newman. He was in Astonished. Max is the owner of the camp. Here he tells the story of a farmer who lived in the house right by where they were having their fire. Apparently, one night he went mad and went from room to room killing his wife and his 2 kids with an axe. Afterwards, he went to the bar, set the bloody axe on the bar top, and ordered a drink. After the townspeople discovered what happened, a group of men jumped him, one of them gashed him in the face with the axe, and they hung him. But the next day, he was gone, and so were the bodies of his family. And they were never found.
Oh, Max, come on. How could their bodies never be found?
Here we meet Richie, played by Tom Candela. He doesn't believe Max's stories and asks what the farmer's name is. Max says that you have to be very careful saying his name any louder than a whisper, because then he will come for you. But that his name is Madman Mars. Madman Mars. Richie takes Max's advice to heart.
Madman Mars!
Alright, scary story aside, that's a dick move, Richie. What you just did there, it's called vandalism. Max then tells Richie that now he's done it, that Mars is going to get him before finishing his story. Before they head out, we see TP talking to Betsy, played by Galen Ross. She was in Dawn of the Dead and Creepshow. We find out that her and TP are an item, but she doesn't like him telling scary stories to the kids. 4 of the guys stay behind to put out the fire as the rest of the group heads out. As they are about to leave, Richie sees something in the trees in a pretty cool shot. Overall, it's a pretty decent opening. With the classic scary story at the campfire, I'm feeling pretty good about this movie. Richie's group heads out, but he stays behind to investigate what he saw. He decides to go into Mars's house, and then we see something, presumably Madman Mars, and we hear it. And now I'm starting to get worried about this movie. We cut back to camp and we see Betsy talking to Stacy, played by Harriet Bass. She was also in An Empty Bed, and that's it. They're talking about how TP wants to keep seeing Betsy after camp ends, but she's not sure. We then see TP talking to Max. Apparently, if you can pull the axe out of the stump, you win $100. They both give it a shot, but can't get it out. Max uses it for a metaphor for life, but TP doesn't want to hear any of that nonsense. Here we also briefly meet the cook Dippy. After Dippy passes out, he gets woken up by Stacy, and he goes to get more booze. And when he opens the door, this thing kills him. Hell. I mean, they only showed it for a minute, but I can tell this movie is going to go downhill pretty fast, because that did not look or sound promising. We cut back to Richie still looking through the house when Mars comes home, and we hear him again, and it's bad. We go back to the camp, and Max says he's going to go into town for a couple of hours. Then it gets straight up sexy in here when Betsy and, what's his name again? Oh yeah, that's right. When they strip down to some pretty phenomenal Doing It music.
I love you like I do. I don't think I can explain.
Sorry, got a little too into it there. Then they proceed to partake in some synchronized hot tubbing, the likes of which have never been seen again. Seriously though, this music, before they actually do it.
You never know.
And if this song sounds familiar, it's probably because it was on Now That's What I Call Music to Smash To. Those were some CDs that were popular back in the late 90s. Some good stuff on there. By the way, this scene, starting at the stripping, goes on for 3 minutes and 48 seconds. I mean, this definitely doesn't seem like it should be in a horror movie. Here we also see that someone is trying to watch them. Well, not someone, I mean it's Mars. We can tell by the stupid sounds he's making. And after going in for a closer look, we get a slightly better look at him, and yep, just as I suspected, he looks really dumb. That's what I was afraid of, and this movie started off with such promise. We got back to Richie, where they spent over a minute showing that he's lost in the woods. We then cut to 4 of the counselors laying in front of the fireplace. Besides Stacy, we have Bill, played by Alex Murphy, Ellie, played by Jan Clare, and Dave, played by Seth Jones. Dave gets up and gives a weird monologue about,
"You never really know what's in my mind at any given time."
And while he does make some valid points, it's definitely a little weird and kind of feels like filler to me. We then see that Richie is still lost, and again, they show it for longer than they need to. We get it, he has no sense of direction. We then see TP telling Betsy that he's going to go look for Richie and that she should wait in the office for him. As he's leaving, Betsy sees a shadowy figure, and we get some more music. This movie is definitely not short on music. Cut to TP looking for Richie. As he's looking, we get another brief look at the killer, and seriously, what the hell is that? I know they show it quickly, but I'm going to freeze it here because, well, I can. So, the killer looks like it's supposed to be some kind of Sasquatch, I guess? I do like how they have him just holding a noose. I mean, I like it because it's funny, but it's not supposed to be. And this looks like something I've seen in a cartoon, when somebody is hiding in a group of like statues or mannequins or something, and hoping not to get noticed. As TP goes to inspect further, he ends up getting lassoed and dragged to a tree where Mars tries to hang him. Now luckily, TP is able to pull himself up on the tree limb and save himself. Well, until Mars walks over and pulls him down, and we get a good look at his monster feet. Again, this comes across as funny to me. They do follow it up though with a cool shot of TP hanging from the tree, and you can hear the sounds of him swinging. Betsy gets worried, so she tells Dave and Stacy that TP hasn't come back yet, and Dave agrees to go look for him. As he's leaving camp, we see Mars grabbing the axe out of the stump and winning himself $100. Way to go, man. And we see the same shot of him walking with the axe as we did when they told the story at the beginning. Next, we see Dave looking for TP, and they do a decent job here of having some low underlining music and the sound of wind playing. It helps build the tension of the scene. Dave does eventually find TP, who's looking pretty rough. Dave goes to hide, and the nice job that they did with the music earlier just goes straight out the window. For whatever reason, they decided to put in sound effects when Mars swings his axe. I mean, it sounds like I'm watching Flash Gordon or something. Why? Why? Oh, but okay, so now it makes sense. When Max was telling his story at the beginning, when he says Madman Mars will chop off your head, he literally says zap as the sound it would make.
Or zap! Off goes your head.
Now, I thought he was just doing a bad job of storytelling, but nope, it's just the movie. By the way, Mars is played by Paul Ehlers. Also, they do a shot of Mars being backlit, and normally this would be a neat shot, but after the sound effects and the fact that he looks like a Sasquatch, it didn't really do it for me. Oh, and Dave dies. Stacy gets worried and tells Betsy she's gonna go look around. Now, here's where I lose all faith in this movie. As Stacy is walking, we see/hear Mars again. And it's like they decided they wanted to be a zombie movie here. I mean, it's dumb. Stacy makes her way to the pickup where she has to tinker with it to get it started and heads out, but not before Mars reaches for the door handle. Next, we see Bill and Ellie telling Betsy that they're going to go look for the others, and then they head out. We cut to Stacy looking for Dave, and we see that she's not alone. She finally finds Dave, and we see that he's dead too. I mean, we already knew he was, but this is just confirmation. I will say they also throw in a creepy shot after Stacy runs away. They show Dave's body being slowly dragged over the log. It's a nice shot. Stacy runs back to the pickup and it won't start again. So she goes to tinker with it, and right as she's done, Mars attacks. And she loses her head. Man, that's a good bit of gore in the last couple of minutes compared to the rest of this movie. Next, Bill and Ellie show up looking for people and decide to split up to cover more ground. Always a good idea. As Bill is looking, he comes across the rope that Mars hung TP from, but the body is gone. And as Ellie is looking, she comes across Mars standing over Stacy's body, and when she screams, we get another look at Mars, and he's ridiculous. Also, he sounds like a fucking dog to me. Here, let's take a moment to really appreciate how awful this is. I mean, come on, what the hell? Ellie runs away to get Bill, and he talks her into going back to the pickup just to make sure what she saw. When they get there, Mars and the body are gone, but there is blood on the hood. They decide to head back to camp, but when Bill goes to start the pickup, there's a squish sound and it won't start. He goes to tinker with it, and when he opens the hood, there's something bad inside. When Ellie comes to look, we see it's Stacy's head. Bill grabs a towel and presumably punts her head into the forest. Man, no respect for the dead. They start to drive off, but Mars grabs Bill and pulls him out of the pickup. The pickup crashes into a tree and Ellie falls out. When she gets up, she sees that Mars is using Bill to do some overhead presses. Oh, okay, see, this whole time I was thinking he was called Madman Mars because he was insane or crazy. But maybe he's Madman because he's roid raging. Something to think about. Now, we don't actually see Bill die here, but we see that he's dead. Then we cut to, Jesus, Richie, are you still lost? Well, at this point, you have to be at least, what, a couple miles away? Wait, so you've been walking around for that long and you only made it, what, a couple hundred feet from the house? Richie, you're the worst, man. Anyways, after seeing Mars leave, Richie decides to go back into the house to look around, and when he goes downstairs, he sees something that takes him 20 seconds to figure out that it's bad. Maybe that's why he hasn't made it that far. I think he actually might have night blindness. We got back to the camp where Ellie is trying to find Betsy, and when she goes into the dining hall, Mars ends up showing up, and she runs away and hides in a fridge. He leaves and she makes her way to the door, and we see that Mars is just messing with her. Man, what a prankster. And just when she thinks she's home free, he shows up and axes her out. Huh? Yeah, maybe? Alright. Cut to Betsy walking around camp when she sees Ellie's body through a window. She runs back to the office and calls Max, telling him that he needs to come back because there's blood everywhere. I mean, everyone loves getting that kind of phone call, right? As she looks out the window, she sees Mars running by. She grabs a shotgun and goes to look closer at the body, and we spend the next 47 seconds watching her walk to the body. A common theme in this movie is that scenes tend to drag out for longer than they should. And as she approaches the window, Ellie gets pushed up against it, and if you listen closely, you can hear her say Betsy before Betsy shoots her. Which means she wasn't dead. I mean, well, she is now, but that's on Betsy. Then Betsy grabs the kids and they all get on the bus. And as they are driving away, Mars runs in front of them and she hits the brakes for some reason. And again, this isn't scary at all. Mars tries to get inside, but they fight him off. He then decides to cut his losses and just leave with Ellie's body. Betsy tells one of the kids to drive the bus and she's gonna go look for the others. Betsy goes to the house, and as she's looking around, we see that little rascal Mars playing hide-and-go-seek again. Also, watching her walking around holding the shotgun like that, I mean, she does know she has to pull the trigger to make it work, right? What am I talking about? Of course she does. She just shot her friend in the face. Duh. After being startled, she shoots at nothing, and Mars comes after her very, very slowly, until finally he hits the gun out of her hand with his trusty sound effect. He then slashes her face again with his sound effect and proceeds to drag her into the basement. Once down there, we get a scene very similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, except they actually show more here. As Mars is turning around, Betsy pulls out her knife and stabs him in the shoulder. This causes a candle to get knocked over and a fire to start. With the room lit up, Mars looks around at the bodies like he's seen them for the first time, and then he just leaves. We then cut to Max driving back when he comes across Richie. You know Richie, the guy who caused all of this to happen. And when Max asks what happened, Richie says,
Man, Mars.
Then we see the bodies in the basement being shown through Richie's face, and a song starts playing that's about the legend of Madman Mars, which, is the same song at the beginning. I will say though, I don't hate it. Then we get that backlit shot of Mars again, and the credits start. And now for some fun facts. They originally tried to get Vincent Price to play Max. Yeah, good luck with that. Originally, this was supposed to be based on the Cropsey Killer legend, but when they heard that The Burning was being based on the same legend, they rewrote the script. That sweet love-making music they played during the hot tub scene was actually sung by TP, the guy in the hot tub. I kind of want to make a soundboard using Mars's groans and attack sounds. I think it'd be pretty sweet. Let's see how this works. Alright. Not too bad, I mean, it's bad. It's obviously very bad, but it's fun, so yeah. So, would I recommend watching Madman?
I don't know.
This one is a tough call. I mean, overall, the movie isn't too bad. A little slow at times, but the acting is actually pretty decent. It has a lot of elements of a good horror movie. The way they set up scenes and added tension in different spots was done fairly well. But it's just when you get anything involving Mars, it goes downhill super fast. So basically, if you take out Mars and any parts he's in, you have a decent movie. I mean, not much of a plot, granted, but still decent. If you do want to watch it, I'll put a link in the description where you can go and check it out for free. What did you think? Have you seen Madman? If so, did you like it? In my last review, I went over Drive-In Massacre, so I'll put a link up for that so you can watch it and see why I want to punch this movie in the face. Alright, sorry, just getting worked up just thinking about it. Alright, well, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.